welcome. Thanks for coming this morning. We are the Community Technologies group here at Microsoft Research, and we have a bunch of new things to show you, some old things to show you again. If you've seen our work, you probably will have seen some of this, but I guarantee you some new things that probably nobody has seen before and never before seen here at Microsoft Research. So what I'd like to do is start by not moving away from the mic. I'd like to start by just giving you an overview of who we are and what we do. The Community Technologies Group was formed to study, map, and measure social cyberspaces, and in particular conversational social cyberspaces. But social cyberspaces for us are those places where people interact with one another through computer networks. So this is sort of a special subset of everything that is out there in cyberspace. In many ways, what we are looking at is the intersection between sociology and technology, looking at the emergence of what could be called collective computing. What happens when large groups of people come together through information systems? So think of things like, well, certainly Usenet, but also Napster, SMS clouds, things like that. The emergence of new forms of collaboration and coordination using particularly mobile technologies is an emerging area of interest for us, and you'll see some of that today. Having studied these systems and built some tools to study these systems, we've discovered that some of those tools are relatively useful as end-user interfaces to navigating those systems, and we have been pursuing that at length. The other major area of our charter is that there is this larger Microsoft Community Initiative. Microsoft wishes to now engage with community. That meaning all of our customers out there talking about our products. And there's actually been an enormous amount of effort in this area, and we've endeavored to try to support that effort as best we can with some tools and research. So we are a bunch of people, and many of them are here, and if anybody isn't here, they won't be here for long. No, they're all here. And we are particularly pleased to have with us our two interns who've made the summer a really exciting thing all summer long. Fernanda Viegas right here, and she'll be talking to you in just a few minutes, and Lake Mui over there, who has done the Aura project, and I think you'll be interested in seeing that. So we've been working with quite a number of product teams across Microsoft, CDDG, Office, Product Support Services, Developer Support, the Intranet Portal Strategy Group. All of these people have taken a very active interest in the idea of helping our customers help each other, or helping our employees help one another, looking for ways to catalyze collaboration. We are particularly, as a group, interested in supporting these kinds of tasks when it comes to community. We believe that currently it is very difficult to discover communities, and that when you discover communities, you find too many of them and have very few tools to disambiguate the mass of them. There are, for example, 2,300 Microsoft.public.star newsgroups. So just in newsgroup space alone, 2,300 channels, it's worse than cable TV. And there is no program guide. We have endeavored to try to create a kind of program guide. If you could find a community that you cared about, you would find that when you got into it, there is a little bit of content there, often too much content there. In some of our more active news groups, we peaked at like 38,000 messages a month. If that takes a message a minute to read, you've eaten most of your month. How do you find what's good in there? In many cases, people who have tried to get value out of these spaces find that there's just too much noise, it swamps the signal, and they just back away. That's a real shame. It's essentially the sociological tragedy of the commons. People all back away from it because they pollute that commons so badly. So we're very interested in finding ways of building tools to help skim cream out of what is otherwise semi-polluted environments. Evaluation and motivation are in some ways flip sides of the same issue. How can people draw information out of community spaces and not really knowing how to evaluate that information, make an evaluation nonetheless? And this is, of course, in many ways very consequential if, as the Microsoft Community Initiative shows, we wish to tell our customers, talk amongst yourselves. Maybe you can all work it out by helping each other. What happens when we have unscrupulous customers? What happens when we trip over a problem I like to refer to as the del star.star problem? Customer perhaps has heard about defragmentation and comes to the community and says, well, how do I do that? And the unscrupulous answer comes back, type in del star.star. Well, you know, technically, it's accurate. You don't have file fragmentation. You also don't have files. I believe it is a open and hard problem in not only the computer sciences but the human sciences to make an evaluation of information that is reliable. We have taken a sociological approach. Rather than saying that we are going to evaluate the content, we have decided to evaluate the author. And we provide a range of tools to try to help you make decisions about the person who's giving you information. And I think you'll find that Fernanda's tools, as she shows them to you over the next few minutes, really highlight some of these patterns that we've discovered in these spaces. Motivation is the flip side. Why would people come to these communities and take time, and I do mean a lot of time, in some cases every single day of a month, to add value to our customer base? Are they altruists? Are they just foolish? I will argue that they are neither altruists nor foolish. They have a great deal of self-interest at stake. And the real question for us is how can we help them pursue that self-interest? How can we make participating in news groups and other communities more valuable to those small number of people? And it is small. We've discovered that it's about 2% of the total population are these answer people. How can we give them more incentive? How can we make it maybe 3% of the population? So motivation is another key task for us. And of course, in general, how do we collaboratively create valuable content? So we have a roadmap. We engage in a bunch of tool building and research efforts. We data mine social cyberspaces. Using SQL Server, we have built a system called Netscan that gobbles up every single message out of Usenet every single day and builds up metadata about it. We cover about 103,000 news groups. We're just about to crack our 500 millionth message, and we're studying about 20 million unique identities in our data set. When you data mine a social cyberspace, you generate something that we call social accounting metrics. These are measures of conversational spaces and the entities in conversational spaces. And there are three primary entities in these conversational spaces: the spaces themselves, the news group, the mailing list, the web board, the authors, the individual participants, and the conversations that emerge therefrom. Having generated a lot of social accounting metrics, we've got about 0.5 terabyte of them. We now have to figure out how to consume them in some meaningful way. We have a lot of data, and we need to find interfaces that highlight the value in that data. And we are working on multiple fronts to try to do that. Along the way, we've discovered that we would like to do this reliably. And so are working now towards building our server system to not only work reliably, but to work as almost a server platform. To say that what we really need to be working towards is something we refer to as community.net, the platform that enables community. It's something that is a missing element of our product lineup, I will argue. And of course, we wish to deploy these things and test them. So here's part of the problem. Here's my straw man. We have such an easy problem to try to solve because this is the competition. This is Outlook Express, and this is how Outlook Express invites you to explore a space of 103,000 news groups. I believe that's about a 12-line display. Would you like to scroll? You'll note not only is it just an alphabetically sorted list, and it's a long list, but there are really no attributes. There is this description field. It's almost always blank. There is no information about, let's say, how big the news group is, or how active it is, how many people are there, what the quality or character of the environment is. Is it a discussion space? Is it a binary distribution space? Is it a question and answer space? Is it a place where you could get a really good flame war going? We would like to actually bubble that data up to an interface that perhaps looks a little bit better than this. Let's just say you find your community. This is what you get. This is a interface to a social environment. This is the most antisocial interface to a social space I've ever seen. This is an interface that was designed by people who care about messages, not people in conversations. And so we get useful information, like here I can see that Peter V's message is 2 kilobytes. You don't say. 2 whole kilobytes. How often does Peter come back here? Does he post a lot? Do people pay attention to him? Is he important? Should I bother to read this? These are the social questions about this environment. They're not questions about, things like how many bits are associated with the message. That can be useful, but we're calling for more. So why do community at all? What good is community, especially from a business point of view? Community is good because, well, our customers want it, and it's because largely we cannot all by ourselves provide the support necessary to make our products work for everybody out there who are using it. We can help our customers. And remarkably, they want to do this. And we can make it valuable for them to do so, or more valuable. It's a great way to listen to what the customer is having to say about you today. It's a great way to build customer loyalty because the people who participate most actively in these communities really are our cheerleaders. They really care about our products, and we need more of those people. The other thing is that these third parties often can speak more authentically than we can. Microsoft has had a certain credibility issue over the years, and at this point, if somebody else says, well, you know, that .NET thing, it really does work, it means a lot more than when we say it. The other thing is that community is something that our customers want for their customers. We don't have a community tool in our product lineup, and in many ways, we need one. So what good would it be? Well, for participants, they need to get tools that help them find the places, find content, evaluate that content, and feel like they've got a good reason for doing all this. For us, we need tools and platforms to help cultivate community. Just the problems we're facing as a company today, getting community to work for us, really has a lot to do with the tools and the platforms available or not available, as the case may be. And most of the time, we can get message boards up, but we have a hard time getting in assessment of those message boards. We also have a hard time creating these incentive structures for people. So let me just quickly drop out. And what I'm going to do is give you a demo of Netscan. Netscan is our main project. And what Netscan does is act as a social accounting search engine. It tells you things about newsgroups. And this site is publicly available at netscan.research.microsoft.com. And what we predominantly do is provide you with data about the newsgroup and vectors into its content. So, for example, here we've asked it about VB. And in June, our data is now, on the public side anyway, current through the end of June. It will tell us that there are 104 VB newsgroups, but the largest of which is VB General Discussion. It had 7,433 messages in June. 1,399 people, or at least unique identities, wrote those messages. 460 of those people came back from the prior time slice, which is kind of interesting. We have to start thinking about these places as social spaces where we're looking for indicators of, well, are they settled habitations? Is there a group of regulars there? Do they add value? Most of the messages are replies, and that suggests that the reply to post ratio indicates there's conversation happening here. People are actually talking to each other, and that's not always the case. In many news groups, that's not the case. So we provide a range of metrics about how many people wrote a message, only one message, how many messages never got a reply, how many messages were shared to other places, how many other places are we shared to. And what we allow you to do is dig down then and get a report on that particular news group and give you data about this in detail. We'll give you information about how many messages came to that news group day by day over the month. And you'll note a very distinct pattern. And this pattern is very distinct as compared to our consumer news groups. These are patterns that are clearly visible in our professional tools-related news groups, and that is they go home on the weekend. Now, if I bring up the Xbox news groups, it's just not the case. They are flat across the month. Their activity does not have a weekly cycle. We can bring up the number of people who wrote these messages and plot that as well. We could then say, well, how many of those people are the regulars? And that's about how many. And you see the gap between the regulars and the transient population at that point. We provide a bunch of data that indicates change over the prior month. This is the same data that was on the front page, but we're now giving you percentage change from the prior month. And here we're listing all of the news groups that are most closely allied with your news group. People who posted to this news group also posted to that news group. And we do this through cross-posting. We find a tie strength from news group to news group through tie number of cross-posts. But, of course, this is all kind of abstract. You know, this is sort of, you know, metadata. What we really are interested in, though, is getting to the good content. And through a bunch of back-end work, we have scrubbed the threads together, and we provide what we thought was a very simple feature, but, well, some of which are amusing, and a simple feature that simply says, show me the big threads. And you know, that seems so simple, and yet Outlook doesn't do it. Outlook Express doesn't do it. Netscape Communicator does not do it. Google doesn't do it. Why would you want to see the big threads, after all? Well, because they're big. They're the ones that got active. These are the topics that got a lot of people involved. No, now, that doesn't mean that it's all good. It means that this is the controversial stuff. This is the stuff that got people energized. Is that the only thing that you would find interesting? No. No, that isn't. This is a vector into content. This is a different way of slicing into content space and saying, well, this is one strand I might pull on. And I'll demonstrate one other. But some features of this, one of the things that we will do sometimes is draw you a visualization of the thread, or occasionally. And you never know about these things. The other thing we do, I'll move on from there, is provide you another vector into content, and that is, what about short threads of high value? A short thread of high value is difficult to evaluate on its size because almost all the threads are really short. 50% of all the threads are 2 messages. 75% of all the threads are less than 3 messages. So the size of the thread is not going to be our best indicator. What we've done is looked at people and the conversations they get into. So what this report does is list 40 people we believe are good candidates for being valuable contributors. And we do that by one very simple metric. We simply say, who comes here almost every day? These are the people who come here on the most number of different days. That does not mean that they are the people who post the most. As a matter of fact, posting the most is not an indicator of value. But persistence is an indicator of value. It is what the economists like to refer to as a costly signal. When you see here that our number 1 person was here 30 out of 31 days. No, it's 30 out of 30 days, actually, isn't it? How many days did we make in June this year? About 30 days. So 30 days.
30 days has September, right?
Yeah, there you go. And in the prior month, he was here 31 out of 31 days. Now, that's commitment. Now, this person was here only 28 days. And to that person, I say, come on, slacker. Step up to the plate. Let's see some commitment. You'll note a few other correlation patterns here. People who come here almost every day mostly reply. Look at that. 141 messages this person posted. 140 of them are replies. There are other patterns. Like the person who's been here almost every day this month has been doing this since 1999. Now, some people now like to say, boy, these people need to get a life. And I like to argue, no, they got a life, and it's VB. And do you really want to say that people who make, one of their core things in life, Visual Basic, is not good? No, check the pay stub. Microsoft products are good and exciting products to spend your life working on. So this is a good thing. This is somebody who's really adding value to our platform. And what we do then is list for you the top 10 threads this person contributed to in this time period, sorted by the number of messages they put into it. This is somebody who, when they put the most number of messages into a thread, put 3 messages into a thread. You will see that if we look at other contrasting types of news groups, perhaps things like alt.flame, where it's a violation of local norms to be polite, the people put hundreds of messages into a particular thread. So by looking at these patterns of participation, we believe we have found another useful vector into content, a way of finding quality content by looking at quality people. We have a variety of other features that illustrate some of these patterns, but what I'd like to do, there's one of those patterns, but what I'd like to do is shift over to Fernanda's work, which has taken a lot of our tabular results and done a very nice job of illustrating them. Let's see, I think I do something like this. No? There we go. What are we doing? Both screens. There we go. There we go. Okay, I think you need to wear this. We can have sunlight?
Sunlight just for...
Okay.
So how do I wear this again?
I think in a pocket and flip it to something.
Okay.
And unfortunately, goes back to the Media Lab this fall. And we were trying to convince her to stay. But she will show us her work from this summer, which we call Newsgroup Crowds and Author Lines.
Cool. Am I on? Okay.
You're it.
Cool. Okay. So at the Media Lab, I'm part of the sociable media group, and we're very interested in communities online. online identity. And basically, my research focuses on user interface and new visualizations. And so coming here to Marc's group was a perfect match for me because they have all this data. And this data is begging to be visualized, in my opinion. So basically, of the three sort of axes that you can look into a conversational space that Marc was talking about, the news group, the author, and the messages, and the threads, we decided to look at these conversational spaces through the perspective of the authors. So who's in this space? What are they talking about? What is their behavior? What do they look like? And so the two visualizations I'm going to show you today focus on these people. And so now that you saw my face and that you need to look at this now. So this is clusters newsgroup crowds. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to bring up a newsgroup here, which is all.politics.bush. And it's fetching the data right now. And basically what I'm showing you is a bunch of authors. Each one of these circles here is an author inside this group. And I'm showing you this data for the month of May of 2002, so just a few months ago. And I have two axes. The vertical axis is how many days these people have been active in this news group during that month. So the higher up you are in this scatter plot, the more days you spend here. So the people right at the top here have been here for every single day of the month, as opposed to the people at the bottom here who have come here only once and then left. And then the other axis is posts per thread. And that just tells me how sort of conversational or not conversational you are. So the higher post per thread ratio that you have, the more conversational you are, in the sense that you tend to post a lot of messages to the same thread. Okay, so you could even be called a debater if you're way, way to the right of this scatter plot. The more to the left that you are, the less conversational you are. And so what we're going to be seeing is that most of the social groups, so sort of like this one, all.politics.bush, have a lot of people around this area here. The technical groups, I'm going to show you one in just a few minutes, usually don't have that many people over in this area. Size of the circle. Size of the circle has to do with how many posts each one of these authors has contributed to Usenet ever. So if you are a person who, like Marc said, has been around since 1999 and comes here every day and posts every day, you have a big circle. If you have just posted your first message, you have a very tiny circle. And so the idea is to understand things like an expert visitor, a visitor who had just dropped into this news group once this month, but has been around for a long time. And we can see in this group specifically, there's a lot of those. And then finally, color. Color has to do with how recently these people have posted. So the brighter the color, the more recent they have posted. And the sort of darker the color, the less recent. And then what you can do is you can actually figure out who these people are. So if I click on something, it brings me up the name of this, the email address, and then a few other points of data. One of the most interesting, which is the top 5 news groups for this person. And then it's interesting because you see a lot that people in the same news group tend to have the same top 5 news groups, or they're very correlated, and that's always interesting. So let me actually, the next thing then is to, okay, I have all these people here. I see more or less how they are scattered. What if I want to find out more about this one particular author? And that's when we can actually go and say, view profile of this author. And so what I'm showing you now is information about this person for a whole entire year. This is 2001. And each one, and you can see the divisions in gray, are each one of the months. Sort of on top of the timeline, these are threads that were initiated by the author. Below the timeline are the threads that were not initiated by the author, but to which the author contributed anyway. Each one of these circles is a thread that this person has touched on a given week. So each one of these vertical slabs that you see here is a week during that year. So we have 52 or 53 weeks, depending on the year there. And then what I can do is that I can highlight a specific week, and it will bring me up all the threads that that person touched. So all the orange threads here, and I can see the subject. And, oh, another thing I forgot to say, the size of the circle has to do with this person's contribution to that thread. So, for example, here, on this week, this person has contributed a lot to this first thread here, bust them or something. And then what you can do is you can start highlighting different threads of different weeks. And what it does is that it highlights for you if that thread, if that author happened to touch that thread again in a different week, it links those together for you. So let's go back and let's find out another person. So as opposed to the previous person, this person doesn't initiate a whole lot of threads at all. This person actually has a lot of activity on contributing to threads that they didn't start. And actually, the size of the circle, as you can see, is much bigger on a lot of these. And then when we start highlighting, let me see if I can get an interesting pattern to go here. Yeah, so for example, this one thread, this person has touched it for over 5 weeks. And so it's always interesting to get a sense of that. Let me go to a different news group, talk.origins. This is an interesting crowd. So less people, different disposition, still a lot of debaters here. This is a person that talks a whole lot. So not only is he here every single week of the year, he's here a lot in each one of these weeks. And so there are some of the threads that are very interesting. This particular thread has spent almost the entire year with this person, contributing on and off. And that's an interesting thing to see. This other thread also spent many months. This thread, very, very heavy. So always interesting thing to see. Let's see if we can get to a public. See if we can get to a technical group. Yeah, so this sort of profile is very characteristic of technical groups in the sense that you see a whole lot of space that's just empty around the upper right-hand corner of this graph. And that's because the people who come here the most usually, like Marc was saying, answer questions. So they're not huge debaters. You know, they're here to answer questions and go away. And so you usually see this sort of profile for technical groups. There's a lot of people here, a lot of people that don't have too much of a history in Usenet. And then there are people like these guys who come here almost every day. So let's see what their profiles look like. So as you can see, much lighter profile, a person who mostly answers questions rather than starting anything. As I click on these threads, I don't see that many threads that continue from week to week. So it's very much, this person can be one of what we call pollinators, people that come, touch a lot of threads very lightly, and go away. These are very valuable people for places like technical news groups. And then let me see if there's anything else. Oh, yeah, there's one more group that I think would be interesting to look at, just because of the recency data here. So talk.politics.usa. Very interesting profile because there isn't really anyone who comes here almost every single day of the month. And not only that, but they haven't been active for very recently at all. So it's just interesting to see a group where the profile is almost horizontal, which is almost never the case. Let's see this guy here. So very concentrated activity on a specific time of the year. And then also continuing the threads, very long, but the entire beginning of the year didn't say much at all, didn't say anything. So basically, these are the two visualizations, and if you guys have any questions, we can maybe ask later, or okay, or you can ask now.
You want some lights up?
Yes, sure.
This is like available out there somewhere to everyone in the company now?
No, we're about to. So our user testing for this starts today, actually, and then.
Mark, I'm in.
And then the idea is that afterwards, yeah, it will be.
It's like the immense value to my team of this is immense.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
That's nice. That's nice to hear. That's very cool. So yeah, one of the things that was very exciting was a lot of these axes that were chosen. So the axes that were chosen for the cluster visualization were basically came out of a paper that Marc and Andrew Fiore, the intern last year, published, where they found out that a lot of the metrics that they are taking out of these communities map very well to people's understanding of each other, right? So that's why I took those specific metrics and decided to plot each one of the news groups based on them, because apparently our idea of other people's in these spaces maps very well.
You ever been to the Sammamish campus?
No, I have not.
Would you like to?
Marc knows the way.
So these visualizations, I think, fit very nicely into our larger goals of highlighting social patterns of interaction in conversational spaces. We have some other visualizations I'd like to show you briefly, and then we'll move on to our other project this summer, Project Aura, which involves bar-coded objects. So you may have seen some of these. I'll just go through them quickly. These are our tree map visualizations. These are ways of illustrating large areas of multiple news groups at the same time. Here we have a picture about a year old of all of Usenet, and the area that I want to draw your attention to is that, well, there's Microsoft. Just to put us in context a little bit, we are a very large, not the largest, we're a large chunk of Usenet. We're not the most popular topic out there, but when software trumps some of these other things, we're all in trouble as a species. Just to drill down a little bit, this is a zoom. The nice thing about tree mapping is that you can zoom into areas of the hierarchy. Here's an area just of the Microsoft Public hierarchy about a year ago, and now what I'm going to do is flip us through 1 year of Microsoft Public. So hold on. There we go. So here we are in June with the XP beta groups. Remember last summer, there we go. And then XP beta groups continue to grow. The beta groups then die last August because we're about to ship. We go into the ship news groups. The red hot coal there, the dark red means deep decline, green means growth. Now, of course, the XP general groups have grown very, very large. They're growing very strongly. And finally, in November, they've peaked. They've gotten about as big as they're going to get. They're only growing very lightly in that month. And we peak at about 38,000 messages, almost 9,000 individual participants. Imagine how much effort we go to put on a conference and get 4,000 or 5,000 people to show up. These people did all of this. 8,000, 9,000 people got together to talk about XP all across the country, all across the world, at almost, well, a fraction of that cost. There's the Xbox news groups surging. They continue to grow through December. The XP news groups stabilize. The .NET news groups are beginning to grow. Here's March already. We've got the major language areas growing, and there's a good deal of stability there. So let's do this. So you can see here's the German areas, French, Spanish, all the major world languages, German, French, Spanish, Visual Basic. There's the Xbox groups, the .NET groups. And you start to get a sense of what is the relative proportion of interest to our various products. We have explored other visualizations as well, and I encourage you to take a look at our website at netscan.research.microsoft.com. We also have an internal version that focuses exclusively on the Microsoft and technology-related news groups. That's called MSR-Halo, H-A-L-O. The advantage of Halo is that the data is fresher. The disadvantage is that the scope is smaller. We will only do about 9,200 news groups with Halo. The public Netscan site is covering 103,000 news groups. This slide deck is available at http://ms community, our SharePoint, and we have a bunch of information there about what kinds of metrics we consider to be important. If you are here from a product team and you are responsible for a community, these are the kinds of metrics that we consider to be important ones. Note which one is at the bottom of the list. It's an important point for us to suggest that while Microsoft participation directly in the communities is a good thing, too much of that participation or participation of the wrong kind is the wrong thing, and that, well, let's just face it, there are locals there. They already live there. We don't want to take away what they feed on, which is to say, if we go in and answer every question, we've actually taken something away from the people who are there to answer questions. At some point in the future, as we change our architecture, we hope to add new metrics as well that will be even better indicators of the health of these spaces. So what's next for us? Well, we intend to dramatically change the speed of the back end. As I pointed out, public Netscan updates once per month. It's kind of sluggish. Currently, our data processing model consumes 14 days of CPU time. There's got to be a better way. We're working on that. The other thing is that we're working towards something we call ListScan DL. We intend to apply the Netscan and Halo approach to internal Microsoft distribution lists. There are about 65,000 internal Microsoft distribution lists. Not all of them are what we would consider to be a discussion space. About 1,500 of them apparently look like discussion spaces, of which we will take that set that are publicly accessible, the not closed DLs, and we will roll them into an interface that looks very similar to Netscan. Ultimately, we are on our way to a vision of building a soup-to-nuts community platform, something that consumes data from any repository of threaded discussions, wherever they may be. That may be from NNTP, which is to say Usenet. It may be from mail lists or listservs or web boards, wherever it is. If there's a threaded conversation, we want to go get it and analyze it. We want to eventually restructure the message bodies so that they can be tagged for content, and then provide a range of interfaces. In many ways, we have done this piece here, the NNTP gateway, and this piece down here, the Netscan piece, and a bunch of the interface parts. We are now a web service, and you can tap the Halo system as a .NET web service. Some people in this room have done just that. Ultimately, what we think we are working towards is a platform that supports applications that might look like this. This application is a community portal for Microsoft customers, the my.microsoft.com page, in which you, as a customer, or each of our customers, there might be 400 million of these pages, every customer has a single page on which is aggregated all of their interactions with the community. And very importantly, things like, I asked a question 23 hours ago. Did I get any answers? Could you let me know when I have an answer? Could you tell me about the person who answered my question? Is it worth reading the answer, let alone trusting him for giving me that answer? And I think that when you saw some of Fernanda's work, you can see that there are very clear patterns that do suggest greater or lesser value. And we are not saying that we can give you an absolute deadlock, 100% type in del***, it's good for you. But I think what we're suggesting is that there are a range of tools and information we can give the customer that help shift the balance a bit in their favor. You know, caveat lector, let the reader beware, but they now know more than they used to. So here are the various elements of this page that would support a reputation-aware exchange of information between our customers. And this is also available for you to play with up on the MS Community SharePoint. Note that this is a vision piece, otherwise known as smoke and mirrors. We're working towards this. This is our goal. Our web interfaces are very exciting to us because it means that we can create a data set and a set of services without a user interface. Sometimes people don't like our user interfaces. We say to them, fine, no user interface. You don't have to have it. Some people have built other applications that take our data and do some very interesting things with it, like the folks over at Product Support Services who have created a newsgroup reporting service for people who have to deal with 20 or 30 news groups, a specialized bucket of news groups, and they've provided this reporting tool, which we're very happy to have collaborated with them on. As you have seen, the newsgroup crowds and author lines work. What I'm going to do now is actually jump down to the material from Lake's project, which is Project Aura. Project Aura is a bit of a shift for us, but sort of you'll see that it has connections to our core goals. Project Aura is about annotating physical objects. Aura is a system that we call it the Advanced User Resource Annotation System. And you know, the words came before the acronym. Isn't that funny? So what we're interested in is a system in which you can take a barcode reading wireless handheld, and Mike will be showing us more about this in a second. This is just one of these things. This is a iPack with a Symbol SPS 3000 sled. This sled has a laser barcode scanner and a wireless 802.11 card built in. And yes, it's about the size of a grapefruit. Just to show you that time marches on and so does technology, here's the latest version. This is a Toshiba E740. This is a barcode scanning compact flash interface. And the Toshiba E740 is one of the first Pocket PCs to have integrated 802.11. And so this now is the minimum set you need to get the Aura hardware platform implemented. So what I'd like to do is ask Blake to come on up and tell us a little bit more about Aura, and he'll be demonstrating it, and I hope you'll give it a shot. We have a few, about 3 Aura handhelds that are ready for use here. There you go. I can put that mic on.
Am I on the mic? Okay, great. Well, thank you, Mark. Let me see if this thing works.
It works with the desktop. You're on the laptop.
You're on the laptop?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Mark. That's very helpful. So Mark has just told you a vision statement about what Aura is. What exactly is Aura? It is really no more than a PDA plus 802.11 that we have available today, or in the future, Bluetooth, 3G, and or currently available CDPD, plus a barcode scanner, which he has just shown you, or in the future, as we are working on it, other devices, such as Office, using camera as opposed to laser scanners. And with this combination, as easily available as they are today, we think that it's able to enable features that are not available previously. How many of you, by raise of hand, have heard of QCAT a few years ago? Only 2, 3, 4? Okay. And I'll be showing you what exactly a QCAT is in a sec. Like Mark said, we're also able to do physical object annotation with this little device. And I'll be showing you a small demonstration of archival services that we'll be providing. So this is what I'm going to show today. First, I'm going to show a quick demo of Art Aura. And then, in addition to the features on Art Aura, I'll show you some additional features that will be on this device. I'll be briefly going over how this whole thing is implemented. And then I'll be describing, I think, the most exciting part of this work, which is some of the research opportunities that are available. Finally, conclude with some future directions. There are really 2 questions that I would like to answer through the next set of slides. The first question is, what are the killer apps that are feasible on this device? And that should be very interesting to those of you who are interested on the product side or how to make money out of this. The second question I would like to ask is, how can we produce publications from this work? So that's from the other half of the MSR people who are interested in the research questions. And I hope to be able to answer both of those. Art Aura is a project that we are collaborating with the Microsoft Arts Collection. Not sure how many of you know that Microsoft actually has a collection of arts that is quite valuable. The goal is to provide a virtual guided tour for visitors to the conference center or the executive briefing center. The current status of this project, and there are some boards up here with pictures of that are available on Building 33. And if you go over to Building 33, these are the arts that the original art you'll be seeing. And we are currently planning some actual deployment in Building 33 within the next few months. I don't know what the schedule is. Mark will be able to tell you. So the demo I'll be doing is with this little device. And yesterday I was asking the PowerPoint team, how can I get this little screen on these slides? And I'm going to show you some future technologies that many of you have not seen, including the people in the PowerPoints. And here you go. Just as I was about to show you, that's the screen that you're looking at, including the barcode that I'm about to scan. And my goodness, even before so this is Minority Report technology, right? So as soon as I scan a piece of barcode with that attractive sound, what you see on the screen on my little pocket PC is a screen that looks like this. I'm not sure how many of you can see. And let me highlight a few interesting features on the screen that you're looking at. It's no more than something that you expect, including the so all that there is on the screen right now is a barcode and the piece of art. So firstly, there's a visual confirmation that this piece of art, which actually should be that one there, is a visual confirmation that, my goodness, that is indeed what I'm looking at, along with the actual title of the artist and some additional information, if you care to look at it, and some additional features. So let's click on a few of these. So the first thing I want to click on, I want to find out who this artist is. When I clicked on it, what's going to show up is a Pocket IE that's popped up with information about the artist that you have just clicked on. The second feature I want to show you is, let's say you're interested to see some additional text about this piece of art. And there it is. And then let me just go over to the give opinion. This is the physical object annotation part. And this is what makes this project unique from some of the other projects that you might have seen that involves barcode reading and things like that. So on this screen, I allow the user to do several things. One, indicate their, of course, like we all know, Microsoft cares about people's privacy. A rating system, very simple, 1 to 5. A written comment, and some actual physical voice annotation. If I click on, I want to know what other things has actually been said about this piece of art. When I clicked on it, this is the screen you get. Firstly, there is a, this is, as you could get the feel of things, Marc's group is really about, one of the major goals is about measuring the validity or the authenticity or the authoritativeness of authors and objects. And so here is a set of average ratings about the piece of art that has been, I was just looking at. Oops, let me back up by one. Here's a set of metrics with bars. If it is empty, it is indicated that the individual doesn't really like the art. And if it is full, it means the person really likes it. A set of visual comments, shortened, and if you clicked on it, you're going to get a large view of what that annotation is. And a set of speaker annotations. That when the speaker is present, it means that a person has actually left voice annotation. So let's say if I clicked on one of these, so what I'm going to get is, of course, a enlargement of the comments for that piece of annotation. So that's the front end. That is what is on this piece of device. What is, I think, going to be the killer app for an application like this is not on the front end. It is what is possible when a user is able to communicate with other users through some kind of portal system. And so what you are seeing on the PowerPoint right now is one such portal that was constructed. What the portal allows you to do, so on the once you're logged in, is a listing of the trail that you have actually tracked over the past day, over the past number of years that you have been interacting with Aura, and of course with information about the objects that you have interacted with. So when you clicked on one of these pieces of art, of course it brings you to the set of annotations that has been carried out on this piece of art. Now, I think there's a lot of analogy to the conversational interface that Marc and Fernanda have been showing you earlier. And potentially, you could imagine seeing that this piece of work, Project Aura, be integrated with some of the Netscan work that has been done. So some of the other features. I don't know about you. I don't go to art gallery very often, and I don't find this particular application something that I would use every day. But I would like to try to convince you that, nevertheless, Aura, or of what its features that are possible, is something that many of you will be using or would like to use in 10 years' time if this is a successful product. So what are the features that would make you want to use it? I'm going to show you them in the next few slides. So first, our barcode. So barcode is quite pervasive these days. They exist on consumer products, such as many of the free stuff that we have from Microsoft. Almost all of them have a barcode attached to it. Books, all books have ISBN numbers, and all of them are printed with a barcode at the back. And many of the inventory and asset tracking that we see every day, such as if you look at your computer, there's probably an asset tag on it. And I would like to convince you that there are applications that this little device can do that would make you want to use it. So, so the interaction with this device, with these products, is exactly the same. So, for example, I have clicked on previously the grapefruit juice, and what is brought back is information about this piece of product that I have just clicked on. And of course, if I click on the any of these titles, it's going to bring me to Google, and Google stores information about these. On books, this little device recognizes that it's a book, and it tells you that it is a book, and it says that, can I go to Amazon and Barnes & Noble to look this up for you? And let's say I do click on Barnes & Noble, and for the piece of barcode that I just clicked on, it's going to bring me, as you can see, to Barnes & Noble. And of course, you're more than welcome to try this out later. There are 3 of these here, so you can come out and give it a try. And just like artwork, all the things you clicked on will be kept track of for you at the Aura portal. Why is this exciting? Well, firstly, it allows partnering opportunities for portal companies such as MSN to partner with third parties, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, to recommend books that potentially you're interested to look at. In terms of asset tracking, how many of you would like to keep track of all the music that you have ever kept at home, or the books that you have kept at home? This will be your central repository for every object that you can possibly put a barcode, RFID tags on it. I realize that there are a set of slides that I'm going to talk about the killer apps, and I'm going to come to in a few seconds. So let's keep that in mind for a sec. I'm going to briefly go over, for those who are not on the technical side, so it's probably very clearly visible how this application is put together. But I want to make sure that for those of you who are not technical on that side, be able to see very briefly what is actually involved. So there are 6 components that are involved with Project Aura. And there are roughly about 5 different boxes around the internet that are, at any given time that I'm using it, that are involved. First, on the Pocket PC, the client is implemented using our up-and-coming compact framework. On the back end is a whole set of web services that is, of course, implemented in .NET. The portal that you saw is another ASP.NET application. And the actual running of the business logic is done in a runtime library that I'll be showing you very briefly. And of course, there is a database system at the back and a set of external services that we get from Amazon, from a company called Service Objects, from X Methods, for those of you who are familiar with it. This is a cartoon on how this whole thing works. When I click on a piece of barcode, what actually happens is that it fires off a set of web services. And it goes back to a web service calls. And it goes to a backend server, which does no more than actually calls the Aura runtime library. The Aura runtime library sits at a server somewhere, and a set of web services, of course, can be anywhere. And so currently we're using 3 data sources. Right? So this is our own database. Service Objects, which provides UPC code tracking, and then Amazon. The other part of you interacting with Aura is through the Aura portal. And the way this works is exactly the same thing, except the entry pathway is slightly different. There are 3 things that Aura actually does at the moment. First, it retrieves information about the barcodes or RFID or ISBN number, etc. That not offered yet, but hopefully soon. And this is the part that some of the other projects that you might have heard of around the country that are actually doing this. Things like the MIT Oxygen project, the other Aura project at CMU, and so on. The other services that I provide is a set of interactive services, as you have seen. I've briefly demonstrated through PowerPoint slides. Rating services, and also services that allow you to converse with others about a given piece of physical objects. And I've briefly hinted at some of the archival services that are possible with this piece of work. Since we're at MSR, many of you ask, my goodness, so far, which piece of these is actually research projects? And I'm going to borrow an analogy that I heard from Duncan and from Marc. What we're building here is really a microscope. What we're really interested in to look at are the microorganisms. So, what are the microorganisms that we're interested to explore? I'm going to talk about 3 sets of research opportunities that are possible as a result of this infrastructure being in place. And all of these are on the computer science field. Firstly, HCI. Clearly, there are new ways of social interaction that are made possible as a result of this device. And what we're interested in is to do beyond what some of the other projects that I have mentioned here are able to do. And we think that we are quite well along those routes. The second set of HCI issues we're interested to look at is there is this whole slew of literature called social navigation. And most of these involves purely digital ways of navigating within social spaces. Now, what is interesting with a system such as Aura is that it bridges the gap between both the physical world and the digital world. Social navigation means more than just in one side or the other. It actually means interacting on both sides. And what are the implications of that? What are the privacy issues that are involved as a result of that? I think those are very interesting issues that could open up a set of HCI papers. And Fernanda showed you a set of visualization related to newsgroup. It'll be interesting to look at, is this going to be very different if people are actually involved with the physical space? I'm not an HCI person, so I'm not going to speak too much on that. On the system side, recently we were in a meeting, and some high-profile individual said there's no privacy issues here that he cannot see. And I would like to ask you to think as Project Aura, not as an individual which is, I think, the problem that he was facing. Project Aura is really about the community or the people that you're interacting with. And the privacy issues that are involved is huge. How many of you heard of P3P? Okay. P3P is about what? Privacy of individuals, identity, as they access websites. Now, I want you to think of Project Aura as potentially something that is open up a George Orwell experience. This is an experience that allows somebody, in this case, perhaps MSN, to be able to know how many of a certain type of things you go through in a given day. And how do you actually make privacy statements to ensure that your privacy is not infringed, or to design systems or interfaces or languages to let you specify that opens up a lot of research opportunities. An area that I'm particularly interested in when I'm doing my PhD work at MIT is trust and reputation systems. What I'm interested to look at is delegation of trust. Now, for those of you who are in the hard security side of the world, delegation of trust means certificates, right? Means how do you pass or ACLs and things like that. But if you actually think about your everyday life, how many of it actually involves certificates? Do you actually bring a bank certificate? I don't know what they are called. That you actually certify, the bank certify that, I believe, or escrow services. Not many of you actually use escrow services in real life. When you trust somebody, it actually means something much softer. And in the same way, when you trust a rating about somebody's comment about a given object, it involves much less hard security delegation of trust issues. An area in systems that I think would be very interesting to look at is, right now, the interaction with Aura is very intentional. When you actually come in contact with an object, you actually scan the object. You actually tell the system that you want to look at the object. What if this is a very passive process? What if you are carrying a camera on your lenses, on your on your eyeglasses, or in your pocket? As you pass by a hallway, it picks up all the possible grids that you could actually annotate. And I think there are ways to do this already with facial recognitions, with voice recognition, and so on. On the theory side, I'm particularly interested in studying the problem of public goods. And the public goods problem is a very well-known problem in a number of fields. And of course, the tragedy of the commons originally formulated by Harding in 1968. So what is public goods problem? The public goods problem is, why does one person want to contribute to something that he or she does not get something directly back from completely? So an example is these ratings. Why would one want to give ratings? And of course, this is theoretical issues, right? Many of you know the reason you want to give ratings is because you want to increase reputation, or you want to flame somebody or another. But the theoretical issues involving why would people not do, for example, the free rider problem, very well-known problem in economics, or the folk theorem that are very interesting in economics. People are interested very much in the theoretical issues of how do you model reputation? How do you model the incentive of individuals so that to induce them to give free ratings and so on? Another very related issue is a problem that in the past decade or so has received a lot of attention. It's called evolution of cooperation. And of course, there are lots of sociological issues involved. In summary, what is Aura research problem about? It is about how future wireless and ubiquitous applications can be made available today with existing technologies. It's not about technologies. When you hear of ubiquitous computing, it feels a lot like technologies of the future. But the idea is that it's not the case at all. We can actually make it possible, and here's an application. Future directions, very briefly. We are currently working on several publications. We're currently doing a set of user studies at the conference center in Building 33. And if any of you are interested, please contact Marc. And we're also looking at replacing laser barcodes with digital cameras, looking at potentially offits, and potentially other grid. So here's the part that usually Marc does. And what are some potential killer applications that are possible? Why is this something that, given 20 developers in 5 years' time, can make any company $200 million?
That's all?
Minimum. Comparison shopping. Okay, let me just briefly describe the scenario. Imagine you, since I just showed you how I could actually look up a piece of book and go to Amazon directly by pointing with this device. I could walk into Barnes & Noble, local Barnes & Noble, click on the book. Visual demonstration. I click on the book, and my goodness, Barnes & Noble said this thing costs $59.99. So I clicked on this with my my device. Barnes & Noble, Amazon on the web is selling this for $39.99. So what I do is I walk up to the counter, right, and I tell the cashier, now listen, this book right here is $59.99 in your store. Here is Amazon's price, $39.99. Either you reduce this price for me, or I'm going to purchase it right now.
Then you study the social.
I'm sorry?
I've got a stylus, and I'm not afraid to use it.
Oh, that's a great phrase. So I briefly mentioned to you, oh, Scott.
What about the added cost of waiting, a week for that object to arrive? Is that not worth the $20?
Well, like economists would like to tell you, everything has a cost, right? If, I'm sorry, Mark? Okay. If you are at a bargaining situation, you would like to minimize the price of waiting. And of course, you're going to say, okay, as opposed to $39.99, I'm willing to accept $42. So I briefly mentioned to you a set of archival services that are possible with this device. We are actually working on, so there's the site is actually live. You can actually go and try it out. So I'm actually keeping track of every single book, every single UPC code that you come in contact with. And very soon, the portal can be arranged so that when you actually log in, the page is going to be customized so that your library will come in a separate section. And let's say that you can imagine a scenario where you would like to recommend certain section of your book to somebody, then you provide certain web link and into your own personal library. Just-in-time consumer product delivery. So here's an e-home scenario. How many of you have gone to e-home in the past? Okay, just one person. Okay, so here's an e-home scenario. This device, as I've shown you, is able to work with any barcode, including all the consumer goods products that you throw in the garbage can every night. Before you throw stuff in the garbage can, you can use this device to scan every piece of objects that you put in the garbage can. And is Webvan still in business? And by the way, Peapod? Okay, is anyone, which company? Albertson? Okay. So next year, Microsoft is going to partner with Albertson that says that an Aura customer, once they clicked on objects that they throw in the garbage can, that set of objects will be sent to Albertson. And by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, even before the person wakes up, that's Microsoft's schedule, right? 9 a.m. Before the person wakes up at 9 a.m., Albertson is going to deliver every piece of objects that have been thrown in the garbage can to their door. What do you think about that? My goodness, people are going to get fatter, right? Because people are not going to go to the store anymore.
We put an embedded device like that in the garbage can itself.
Sure.
The way it scans it.
Sounds like you're a great entrepreneur there. Okay, let me briefly talk about an indoor navigation scenario. As you know, many of you know, there are things like GPS, global positioning system, that are available. But these things go down the drain as soon as you enter a building. The reason is because this is a time of flight kind of thing, right? As soon as you're out of range with the satellite, it's no longer going to work. So I'm going to argue that indoor navigation, GPS type, indoor GPS type thing is possible with this device. Now, if you go up to the third floor of this building, 113, several of the doors have been tagged with a barcode on it. Each barcode is linked to a unique position in our backend system to Aura. As you scan a big piece of barcode, we know exactly where you stand. And it's not too far-fetched for you to imagine how this can be turned into indoor navigation system. Before you go to a meeting, the meeting organizer sends out an email with where he is, his barcode. You scan it as you enter the building. And this object is able to tell you, my goodness, the room you are on is the 3rd floor, and you are now at the entrance to building 113. So therefore, take the elevator to the 3rd floor, turn left as you come out, and so on. And I'm going to skip this because it's just another exciting product, and I'm going to briefly skip that. So information about the project will be displayed in this portal, and I highly advise you to go and take a look at it. So before I actually come to a conclusion, there's something I want to say. Both Fernanda and I had a great summer here as interns at the Microsoft Community Technology Group. None of this is possible without a set of stars, right? And these are the stars. There are technically competent people in Microsoft, and there are technically excellent people. And this group certainly exemplifies that, as you have seen. But I think what is unusual about this particular group that we have been in, they are also genuinely good people. People laugh, is it because it's rare? Or is it because... So I would like to appreciate their hospitality this summer. It has been a great fun. Both Fernanda and I have just, I think, enjoyed the summer thoroughly. So really thank you very much. So thank you. So I'm going to end by this. I'm not sure if Marc have any more slides.
We'd love to take your questions at this point. And that is, for the most part, our show. So thank you very much for your time. Sir?
Yeah, I tried going to that Aura research site. It was in the abstract that it wants our password.
No, you create a password. It's just like another internet site. Don't give us your corporate password. Well, you can if you like, but we prefer that you don't. But it's just to create an account in the Aura system so that we know that when you... What would happen then is if you've created an account out on the Aura portal, when you come to this device, you tell it that you want to log into that account. And at that point, all the scans are your scans rather than the anonymous user's scans. Other questions? Well, thank you very much. Give it a shot. Thank you.